Hi. Is it time to catch up after 2.5 years? Maybe. I'm going to try and do all of this in one take, so it's a bit of a casual thing. I have some notes. I've started a new project. Not a new project, because I've made this before and smashed it before. That wasn't on camera, but just like everything else. The first unit is history. But yeah, the APRS graphic TNC hello Mr. Snuggle-Wuggles. You might not see my little visitor. Say hello, make a cameo. Hello! He'll probably just sit in my lap now. And static damage the couple of populated chips on this board. What's first? I'll start with a question that nobody asked, an answer to a question. Why there's no documentation for any of my projects. The short answer is I don't need it. This is the documentation for this project. Your typical hobbyist wouldn't be able to reproduce it with that, given the software. It's shorthand. Someone who really knew what they were doing, really proficient, could figure the rest out. That sort of person would probably build their own thing. For me, basically the documentation to reproduce a project properly would take about the same time as building the thing and writing the initial software to get the thing working. I can work on software for 1 or 2 years trying to perfect it and going down a big rabbit hole there. But yeah, generally that would slow me down, and I always wanted to keep going. And it's not all for you. The video thing, the whole YouTube thing was not all for you. It's partly for you. It started purely for me, and when it was purely for me, I didn't even talk for the first couple of years on YouTube. So making these videos in the last maybe 10 years when I started talking, making a story out of thing and describing how something works, that's all for you. When I initially made videos, it was to prove something worked and then embed that on a forum. That's actually the first reason I joined YouTube, is I interfaced a hardware Garmin GPS puck to a Sony PSP, wrote some software to read information, basic information from that GPS unit, like print the time on the screen. And that was doubted. People just said that's fake. You just drew a picture and put it in your photos and showed that on the PSP screen. Yeah, because there were a lot of fake programs, because you had teenagers trying to get some fame. It's a funny thing, because as soon as someone downloaded the thing, it was just nothing. But I think I still get code please, like code PLZ question mark. I don't know if I'd answer that anyway. And even in that sense, like the last one, a question like that I got was on GPS simulator project. I didn't answer it, but it's not that that question, it was actually worded politely. I should answer the guy, but most software writers aren't initially happy to show other people until they're happy with it. Like any part of yourself, this whole YouTube channel is me showing you my strength, where really I have a lot of weakness and vulnerabilities and deficiencies that I don't show you. I'm just showing you something that you can't criticize, because if you criticize this, you're criticizing my strength, and it might turn around and challenge you and combat you. If I showed you all of myself, I'm lacking. We all are. Okay, I'm off script. This project, I have made small improvements to the last one. So the videos I showed you, I had a screen. I showed you how I'd handled input. Remote control, I showed that. So I had a Yaesu FT3DR, and could send a remote control code to set the state of some LEDs on the unit through over APRS protocol, and that could be extended to trigger some relays and remote control something, and it could have some security implemented in it. In Australia, in amateur radio, we can have encryption remote control of hardware. So we can't encrypt general messages to each other, but at least in Australia we can use encryption, fully keyed encryption algorithms to remote control hardware and lock other people out. That was one of my intentions, although I didn't properly do that. For someone else to actually remote control your thing, they have to be using your call sign anyway, so they have to be actually knowing that they're doing something wrong. Improvements, there are a couple. This chip here, 16F88, it's getting hard to get now. I had to get this from eBay, and the lead time for the microchip is 45 weeks. So that's a couple of months short of a year. So I think that's some chip shortage for you, because they're probably busy making more popular chips. But it's not discontinued, it's in production. But I had to buy this. Anyway, that was written by someone else. It handles, it's Bob Ball. Probably, I assume he's silent key because he was retired and wrote this back in something like 2008. Just age-wise, I assume he's not with us anymore. Yeah, so basically I did modify his code quite severely, actually, because this thing was supposed to be a TNC in itself. And I just made necessarily adjustments to have it just take in packets, not look at what it was. It does still check CRC, and then pass it out serially to my chip, my software, which handles the APRS protocol, and then all the graphics. And it works nicely because then this chip is taking the load. Some headroom, it's leaving headroom for this chip because it's doing graphics. The DSPIC could handle the whole thing, and actually this is the chip that I envy because I haven't done it yet. So I actually think there's real tidy code, and I think it's a shame that it will be lost to time. It hardly makes sense anymore to use this as a tracker on its own. It's too dumb to check squelch, so it will just try to collide packets and stuff like that. Things are more sensible now. Even this one has an improvement over the last one because it's intended to be connected to your data port of a Yaesu typically, and that'd be your FT8900 would have a data port. So has the FT818 that I have now has the same 6-pin data port. That includes a squelch line, so this can know if someone is transmitting and then not transmit when squelch is open. The previous one only refrained from transmitting while it was decoding something, because then it obviously knows there's something being sent, but there could be something that's just too weak to be decoded, so it could blur over that. But this one, you can set squelch to keep it quiet. I have tested, the bottom left quadrant of this board, so the TNC part. The rest of it, I guess I have to wait. That's, yeah, so watch the squelch line. I've got a note here that this is the first time the project is over for me before it's even finished. That, it's an emotional thing, so it would go to why I smash projects. Again, just because you've built something that works doesn't mean you'd be ready to pass that on to someone else to look at it and critique it. Some projects I have given away, like Robot Radio, which is on YouTube. A friend has that. Everything else I've ever built electronically has actually been smashed, except for the core memory. That's the only thing I have left, and this. I'm sick of this now. I do it when I stop getting what the project provides. So the first thing that I'm driven by is I want a result. So I keep at it because I want a result. I'm results driven. After that, the project doesn't do too much for me unless I have software to perfect. And then I can keep saying, oh, that's better, that's better, that's better. Because I've built this before mainly, once I plug the display in and get the thing working, it'll really just be the same as the last one. What was going through my head when I smashed the last one, it only speaks to my area and myself. It's that, what's the use of it? APRS is just a bunch of robots talking to each other, machines, repeaters basically around here. I'm speaking, I mean, if you were in Los Angeles or somewhere, the APRS frequency is packed. So what participation is there for me? If you've just made another robot to talk to the other robots and you're an observer, that's not participation, is it? And then I didn't have much investment in it. I just thought, this is crap. Not my project, but why do I need this? What's it doing for anyone? I will be able to show you when this is completed a whole other part to the project that I didn't show you before, even though it was completed, but I stopped making videos. It's what it can actually, it's a bot. You can actually ask it some questions about astronomy, like sunrise. It'll routinely beacon out sunrise and sunset times, and moonrise and moonset times, and moon illumination. And you can also ask it some questions via an APRS message, like what's the nearest station to me? I think the word was used, send it a message with the word nearest ? And it will tell you the nearest station to you that this is received. And that might be a repeater, and you can talk through that repeater, or it might be another person. That was the idea behind it. In this area, that's totally useless. There's a few repeaters around me. There's a few guys that drive around during the week, but they're not actually listening. Even if someone has a tracker in their car driving around, that's not any sort of participation in amateur radio. They're possibly just doing that for themselves so that they can see themselves on a map. I have an APRS tracker in my car. I hardly turn it on now. It's the same sort of thing as any of my projects. It's okay experimentally and then boring once it's completed. I could give this one away this time rather than smash it. As long as I think the person will run it, because it might serve a purpose. So as long as I think the person will actually run the thing and use it to serve other people, I might do that. I might also then feel that I should provide a radio and antenna, and if I expect someone to actually power the thing for the rest of its service life, so that could prevent me from even doing that. So why do it again? So why actually build this again? This is just a question. It just seems obvious. No one asked again, but why would you smash this and build it again? But what I alluded to first, I love this code here, and initially I wanted to write this. I'm not envious because I can't do it. I could do it actually. I know exactly how it works. I wanted to write it on a PC just to make something different. So I wanted to write a Windows program, an APRS terminal with the AX25 and all the audio actually built into the PC program, so that you didn't need an external hardware TNC. And I thought that would be I'll be the hero of the day then. But that exists. Direwolf exists, and so I was told about that, and I set Direwolf up with Pinpoint on my laptop, and it worked. And then I thought, well, I'm not doing that, it's already been done. And then my thoughts moved back to this. I thought maybe I'll document it this time and get a PCB made so other people will reproduce it. The answer is no again in my mind, because the thing is not cost effective. It's very expensive for what it is. It's not even easy to get that chip. The DS PIC is, but the 16F88 and also the display, the KS0108 displays, 0108 displays aren't that common anymore, so I've had to get a China one because I haven't found that display in Australia. They're all Arduino serial displays, and they're all weak. I've serialized mine. I've handled that myself with shift register, but yeah, these are actually sold. I'd have to write stuff again that I didn't want to do. Basically, I don't want to write another routine for another display. It just seems silly. That might be all. Yeah, where have I been? That might be a question. The 2.5 years I've been waking up, getting diagnosed, and being retired by our government. So I'm on what they call a disability support pension now, which isn't easy to get yourself on. You have to provide a lot of evidence of why you can't work. For me, it's a combination of physical and mental. So also figuring out what to do in this last 2.5 years, figuring out what now to do with the rest of my life, now that I am quite sure that paid work is out of the question. I volunteered at the RSPCA last year, and that was great. I might do that again. I'm actually hoping to do that again. But basically, I'm 48 now. Only last year I discovered that I was autistic, and quite in a severe way in some ways, and quite severely affected by it. Most adult autists, most autistics who discovered that they were autistic as an adult previously thought that they were the way they behaved around people, and that's called a mask. It's a way to learn. We learned what we were deficient at. So if we're deficient socially, don't know how to behave around people or communicate with people, we do intellectually learn some ways to do that to compensate for what should come naturally in a neurotypical. So socialization in children is something that would come naturally for the greater population, where myself at primary school only had one friend, delayed development. By high school, I got a bit better, and I kept that friend, but I made more friends of my own. The way that I discovered I was autistic is that I found out in 2022, last year. I found out that my only primary school friend died way back in 2001 when we were both, I think, 26, if I've got my numbers right. So, I mean, he died a long time ago, but to me this was brand new because I found out through another high school friend who knew that he passed away. And so for me, I felt that loss now, a loss of protection, very primal loss, because he was my only friend. It was like your clan or your tribe getting smaller and you being less safe. And that's very real, because I think he protected me at primary school. The person's name is Brent Suching, and his family always fostered kids, and those kids had probably disorders of one type or another. So but now looking back, I believe that Brent viewed me as normal because there were so many different kinds of kids in his life. I wasn't very different. He also, looking back, probably had ADHD. He had a hard time in his life later on. The last time I saw him, we were both 19. So, I mean, I had a long time not seeing him, but I did catch up with his sister to learn what happened to him, which it's not appropriate to go into detail here. But he had trouble in his life later on, being lost and things like that. And I think it probably was to do with some sort of mental illness. So once I suppose I had a very poor understanding of what autism actually is. Now I know what I am. I try to learn more, and so now I'm all of a sudden interested in psychology, because also I've been diagnosed CPTSD. I was raised by a narcissist mother whose love was conditional, whose apparent love was conditional. That puts a child always on edge, not knowing what you'll get in trouble for, and having to predict what will cause your mother to yell at you. So you've always got to be at your best to stop being in trouble without being told what is right or wrong. You've actually got to anticipate that, and that does harm to a child well into adulthood. And it also sets a person up for abusive relationships into adulthood, because they are familiar to you and they gravitate to you, and you've also been trained to accept that sort of stuff. So trauma attracts other abusive and narcissistic people to you. That's over now, because I'm very aware. I actually I've attracted them all my life, but after ending a significant relationship with one, that was when I also saw similarities with my mother, once I started actually learning about that. most of those people will never wake up the way I did, because they can't see beyond the way they act. They will always, they're in denial, so denial being the most primitive form of emotional protection. Only works as long as you are convinced of your own lie. Once awareness comes, there's no going back. So some of these individuals are so entrenched in denial that they will never actually be able to see, separate the real selves from the selves that they're pretending to be, and try to impose on you. That's going way off, but I did actually have written down, I wanted to explain where I was and what has happened, and also I have a feeling that most of the people watching my channel in the past are probably on the spectrum, because what does it offer you? Given that I don't document anything, unless it's simple. I know some things I did actually make for beginners, like the joystick thing. It might, I wonder if it's something that resonates with anyone that might watch this, if there's anyone left watching. But I think that's it, and I have done it in one take. We are not what we learned, we are what does the learning. That'll do. See ya. Well, actually, I should see you soon. The display, as I said, is in the country. All of the rest of these chips are sitting, I don't populate them until I have to. This board powers up and doesn't burn. The GPS puck, last time I actually did a U-Blocks castellated package GPS and sort of built the thing. This time it'll be a Garmin GPS mouse. So I won't have to build that. It'll be sitting outside of this. So everything but the display and the GPS is here. There'll be some pictures. Now I think I can go. I have no idea how long this went for. Bye.